We're going to use the weighted average under the periodic inventory system to value both the ending inventory and the cost of goods sold. We've got ABC Inc., and they have the following inventory transactions for the month of May. They've got beginning inventory, 50 units, $230 each. Now, they also have 4 purchases throughout the period. Notice no information about sales. That's because under the periodic inventory system, we don't track the cost of goods sold for each sale. Instead, we calculate the cost of goods sold at the end of the period. So it says an inventory count at May 31st indicates that 62 units are on hand. So how do we start with the calculation? We start by determining the opening inventory. And I'm going to do it in units. All right, opening inventory is 50 units. Now, we're then going to add in the purchases. And in this case, I'm doing the units. So the 35 plus the 25, 30, and 30, all those 4 purchases we did during the period. If I add these 2 amounts together, they're going to be equal to the available for sale. Remember, the available for sale is the opening inventory plus all of the goods purchased throughout the period, 170 units. Now, in order to determine the cost of goods sold, I have to subtract the ending inventory. I know how many units we have left on hand. It's 62. So subtract 62. This is going to determine the number of units that were sold. 170 minus 62 is 108 units. That is equal to the cost of goods sold, or the number of units sold. Now, what I want is I want costs. I have the cost of the opening inventory, 11,500. I have the cost of the goods purchased, which is the value of all the purchases, which is 29,465. So I can easily calculate the available for sale, 40,965. But what I need is the value of ending inventory. How do I do that? When we're using the periodic inventory system, the weighted average cost is only calculated once at the end of the period. The weighted average cost is calculated by dividing the costs of goods available for sale by the total number of units available for sale. So in this case, to calculate the weighted average cost per unit, I'm going to take the available for sale, dollars, and divide it by the number of units available. This will get me the average cost. So in this case, I see that the average cost is $241.97. I'm going to leave that unrounded. So this is my average cost. I can now use that information to calculate the value of the ending inventory. So I take the ending inventory and I multiply it by the average cost per unit, and I get $14,940.18. If I now deduct this from the available for sale, it's going to tell me that the cost of goods sold is $26,025. Now, why is it important to use the unrounded average cost in your calculations? That's because if you don't, you're going to end up with a rounding error in both the valuation of the ending inventory and the valuation of the cost of goods sold. So we don't round the average cost. Now, can we verify this number? Absolutely. We can actually take the average cost and multiply it by the number of units in the cost of goods sold. If it's correct, it should end up being exactly the same. And we can see if we rounded this, and I'm just rounding it on Excel, I'm not actually rounding it, we can see it's $26,025, $26,025. So this is the method that we would use to calculate the weighted average cost of goods sold and ending inventory under the periodic inventory system.